In January 2020, Erling Haaland made a massive decision. Amongst interest from some of Europe's top clubs, the Norwegian striker opted to join Borussia Dortmund and bring his goal-scoring exploits to the Bundesliga. Was this the right decision? Absolutely, and here's why. First off, and let's take a look at what made Haaland so appealing to so many clubs, and basically, it's his goal scoring. Now, if you look at the Champions League, well, he became the first ever player to score 6 goals in his first 3 games, and he ended the 2019 group stage with 8 goals in total. All of this in a Salzburg side that eventually got knocked out of the competition. If you talk about his club form as well, he had 16 goals and 6 assists in the 14 Austrian Bundesliga games, and if you count the cup as well, he had 5 hat-tricks before the winter break. So for sure, in front of goal it was enough to attract some of the biggest names in European football, but that's before they even started talking about money. If reports are to be believed, he moved to Dortmund for the paltry fee of just 20 million euros. In today's crazy transfer market, that could get you half a Joel Linton, Eden Hazard's right knee, and the sweat off Antoine Griezmann's hairband. I think we can all agree that is an unbelievable price for such a quality striker. If you take into account the fact that he's just 19 years old as well, I mean, it's an absolute bargain, because not only has he got the potential to go on to be an absolute mega superstar, but this also means that he's also going to have one hell of a potential selling on fee. And as we know with Dortmund, that is a massive part of their club's strategy. In a recent interview, the head of youth at Dortmund, former player Lars Ricken, said that the club prefer to create superstars rather than buy them. I think creating may be a little bit too strong of a word, because these guys have already got potential when they're joining the club. I prefer the word develop, as Dortmund gives them the right platform to go ahead and actually realise this potential. Dortmund is a club which treasures their young players. It gives them a real sense of identity on the pitch and really helps them relate to all of those fans that turn up at the Signal Iduna Park week in, week out. This is a belief that was strengthened at the beginning of last decade, as Jurgen Klopp's side that won back-to-back Bundesliga titles contained the homegrown Mario Götze and a 19-year-old untested Mats Hummels, who was deemed not good enough for Bayern Munich. Ironically, they then went on to sell Götze and Hummels to Bayern Munich for around £60 million, and that brings me firmly on to the point I was making earlier: how much Dortmund sell on their stars for. First off, there's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the misfiring forward from Saint Etienne, who came into the club for 13 million euros and then left 4 and a bit years later for 63 million. Ousmane Dembele is an even better example. The youngster was brought in from Rennes for around 15 million euros before being sold to Barcelona 1 year later for around 125 million. Christian Pulisic is another one, scouted from America and brought over on a free transfer to Dortmund's under-17s, who joined Chelsea for 64 million 4 years later. And let's not even get started on Jadon Sancho. £10 million from City as a 17-year-old, and if he leaves this summer, which looks very likely, it'll be for something well over 10 times that, if not more. And talking of Sancho, there's plenty of other youngsters in stock. 2 bright sparks being one, Gio Reyna, who's come from America and joined the club as a 17-year-old, becoming the youngest ever German Cup scorer this season, and also 15-year-old Youssoufa Moukoko. If you hadn't heard of him, he's the guy who's got way more than a goal per game average in Dortmund's under-19 league. This and the fact he's only 15. So what about on the pitch? Why does Haaland fit Dortmund so well? Well, to be honest, his pace, his movement and his finishing are exactly what Dortmund need. They've got so many creative players. We know they've got Mario Götze, Marco Reus, Jadon Sancho we've mentioned earlier as well. All of these guys score and create so many chances. They just need a top quality striker in the middle to put them away. Paco Alcácer was the man to do that, but he didn't do it on quite a regular basis or offer what Haaland can. Hence why he left the club as soon as the 19-year-old arrived. Don't get me wrong, this type of swift counter-attacking football means that Haaland pretty much suits most swift attacking teams in Europe. But it's Dortmund who are actually willing to give him the platform, willing to give him the minutes, and willing to play without as much pressure that obviously sold him on the club. I mean, for one, there was RB Leipzig. Julian Nagelsmann apparently had contact with Haaland and wanted to bring him in. But the prospect of having to fight with Timo Werner for minutes, and as well as Yusuf Poulsen, just meant that Haaland wanted to play football and wasn't really up to that task. Elsewhere, and there's also Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to bring him into the club, but then he's got even more pressure on his shoulders. Haaland's then got to not only fight with fan favourites and brilliant players such as Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford, he's also then, in his brief cameos off the bench and the odd start here and there, tasked with taking Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, back into the Champions League. I'm not saying Haaland can't do that, but that's an almighty task for such a young player, even if he does have the confidence and the ability to do so. There's plenty of time left in his career. He can get that big money move later on and really show what he is all about at the very, very top level. Who knows, he might even get there with Dortmund. The thing is about joining the Bundesliga side, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, is that Paco Alcacer was immediately sold. They saw that they weren't going to need him, that they were going to give Haaland all the minutes to progress, and it basically just worked out better for every party involved. The thing is as well, with no disrespect to the Bundesliga, Dortmund, with or without Haaland, are qualifying for the Champions League. At least they definitely should be, and if they don't, there's no way they can pin it on one player. Certainly not the striker in that team. Haaland is playing in a team which is going to qualify for the Champions League, and if they don't win the title, well, it's not really a disgrace to lose out to Bayern Munich, as they seem to win it every year and they completely overpower the division in most seasons. Of course, when Dortmund do have a good run and they really put the pressure on Bayern, well, that's all for the better. But again, losing out on the title isn't exactly something major, like United missing out on the Champions League, for example. On top of this, regardless of where Haaland plays, Dortmund fans can look forward to someone who's not only got brilliant pace and brilliant movement to get into the box, but he can finish absolutely every single time, whether it's with his head, whether it's with his left foot, right foot, chest, volleys, knees, anything. The guy just has a knack for sticking the ball in the back of the net. His first few performances at Dortmund score a fair few tap-ins, but he's got to get into those positions. With such a fluid counter-attack that Dortmund have when players are moving all over the shop, it's brilliant for Haaland to be switched on, to be aware, and have this brilliant burst of speed and movement, which sees him get to the right position to, as I mentioned, stick the ball in the back of the net. So the environment is just right, the talent is there, and even if Haaland gets a monster move to Real Madrid or Manchester United in the future, Dortmund will still be able to stick a claim in the fact that they have helped develop and shine up the potential of one of the brightest diamonds in European football. But what do you guys think of Erling Haaland's move to Dortmund? Is it the right one? I certainly think so. And how far do you think he can go in the future? Are we looking at a potential Ballon d'Or winner? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Smash the like button and click here or here to check out loads of the other stuff we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.